What's up guys, and welcome back. Today I'm working on a piece that is a set, sunsets and moonrises, and who knows, I may even make it into a series. Haven't decided yet. Initially, what got me on this idea was that I bought some metallic silver and gold pens and I wanted to create some artwork to highlight each of them. For the silver pen, I decided to create a moon goddess. First, I started off by completely wetting the areas that I wanted to color. I did this because the paper I'm using is very absorbent and sometimes the color will get stuck in certain places and it won't spread out evenly. But if you put down the water as a base, it'll prevent that and you can get like a smooth, even transfer. The only problem with this is that it will take the pigment, longer to dry, which I used to my advantage. I layered the colors on top of each other from light blue to violet because red and blue make up violet. So if you add either of those two colors to violet, it will help darken the color, but at the same time it'll strengthen the color, whereas if you add black to it, it'll kind of like muddy up the color. Here's where I use the wet paint to my advantage. If the paper is wet and the paintbrush is wet, instead of layering down paint, you'll end up picking color up off the page. So I used a dry brush with a violet pigment on it to dab lightly at the drawing, so I was picking up a little bit of water off the page and it left little splotches of color behind, which is what I was going for, to create that abstract sky layer. Because if you live anywhere where there's not terrible California smog, you'll see that's how the sky looks. It's just layer on layer. Funny thing, I just realized this set does not contain the color black. Is it a color? I don't know. The lack of color? Whatever. It doesn't contain black, which up until now never really bothered me. But the moon goddess's skin is supposed to be gray or silver, like the moon. And I couldn't create that undertone from my paint. So I took one of my pens, which has ink that dissolves in water, and I made a big black splotch on a piece of paper towel, and then I soaked that in water to create a very light ink wash, which I used to create delicate layers of gray for her skin undertone, and then I went over that with the rest of the colors, with the yellows, the purples, the blue, all that great stuff. I know, it's kind of a lazy idea for this one, moon goddess that has pale skin against a galaxy background, but whatever. It was kind of nice and refreshing because every now and again I get a little obsessed with specific design features or styles, and I'll sketch it in my journal and do some rough paintings. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably see certain things pop up over and over again. So this is less of a drawing about a moon goddess and more of like Sarah's latest obsessions. Horns, tattoos, those strange gold and silver necklaces with all those chains and stuff. Since I've gotten into more intentional artwork, I began creating little thumbnails of pieces so that I can sketch out the ideas I want in my head and make changes based on that. This process is very helpful for me because the easiest way to ruin a good sketch is with poor color choices. And trust me, that's where most of my drawings go to die. In the beginning, you saw the thumbnail I drew, and in it, the nymph character is standing up in the water. But to me, that pose looked a little too passive, and there was no real connection between her and the moon. So then I changed it in the final composition to have her sitting on the moon as they both rise out of the water together. I feel like this gave them more of a solid connection, and it also allowed me to experiment with some new elements like wet fabric on skin and fabric submerged in water. And I know what you're thinking. I will get to that. I will get to that because it was a problem. I thought that these elements came out pretty good for my first attempt, but not anywhere near reality, and the main reason for that was because I was looking at references for dresses underwater. See, I'm getting to it now, because I don't really trust the internet enough to Google wet clothing. And if you don't have a solid understanding of how something works, and you're using the wrong references, it's gonna be just like back at square one. You're just inventing something out of your imagination. So I like how the picture came out as a whole, but I'm not 100% happy with the results, which means you will probably see this wet fabric element popping up again in my future drawings because it's really gonna bug me. Whether it'll bug me enough to Google wet clothing is still up for debate. as I mentioned originally, I wanted to use this silver metallic pen for the moon goddess, but it didn't stand out against her pale skin, so I used the gold marker for her jewelry and the design on her dress, and I used the silver marker for her arm tattoo, which is just a bunch of abstract wave designs, and this created a cool effect, which made the waves look like a pattern on her skin, so like it was part of her, kind of like the lunar Mars on the moon, which are those craters, and you can see it like when there's a really full moon. It just looks awesome. So it didn't look like a tattoo, it more just looked like a birthmark or part of her, which I think was a really cool effect. Lastly, I waited for the entire painting to dry, then I went in with 3 shades of gray copic markers to darken areas to create contrast, because the watercolor set I have doesn't contain the color black, and even if I had gone in with ink washes to try and darken those areas, adding more water on top of the watercolors would have just reactivated the watercolors, and then I would have just ended up taking color off of the page. So it was better to just go in with something that doesn't add moisture to the drawing. So if you like this video, you know what to do. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to keep the dream alive. And if you want to follow me on the one and only platform that I am consistent, that is at HB_studios on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.